Some more roster talk, Steven. The World Junior Camp rosters were announced earlier this week for both Canada and the United States. And from the Canadian perspective, there were a couple of interesting names and a couple of interesting omissions in this conversation. Let's start there. Which player that was left off Canada's World Junior Camp roster surprised you the most?
I think it's got to be Michael Misa. And, I think there's an argument to be made that they didn't want to bring all these super, small or super young guys, and they're going to be bringing Gavin McKenna. They're bringing Porter Martone. So they're bringing guys for the next two drafts. But Misa has 25 goals in 25 games in the OHL. Like, if you need scoring, there literally isn't a better option than Michael Misa. But I guess the argument here was they have a lot of guys who could put up a lot of points on the board, whether it be someone like Andrew Cristal, whether it be Gavin McKenna, Carson Rakoff. And I think just finding that right role for Misa was going to be a bit difficult. But to not bring him to camp, it feels a little off. Everyone makes kind of a lot of big statements about, oh, this team's not very good. They left off so many good players. There were a lot of guys that were just not going to make the team, and it feels like they cut those guys off pretty quickly. I will say Cameron Allen making it as a defenseman is shocking, given I have not seen anything positive from his play in the last 3 years. So I don't know. We'll see there. But yeah, when it comes to Misa, he should have at least been invited to camp.
Yeah, like those numbers, like almost 2 points a game. Like that's insane. A goal per game. If you need scoring, and in a short tournament, even if he's in your bottom six, you would think like a guy like that who can score at any point can change the outcome of any game, even in limited minutes. So yeah, I thought the Misa omission was very interesting. As we work our way through camp, is there any kind of battle for a certain spot on the roster that you find most interesting?
I think just looking at the scoring depth here, this is a team again, talking about guys who could score. Someone like Carson Rakoff, who had over 50 goals last year, might not make this team. And that's just because there's a bunch of other guys who could do other things. You look at Andrew Cristal, a guy who I absolutely love, a Washington Capitals prospect. He's pretty small. I think he's listed now at 5'10". He was 5'8", not a great skater, but he's on pace for like 140 or 150 points this year in the WHL. Like, unbelievable numbers. And you see, he's got a goal per game too, but that's not the thing that makes him good. It's the fact that he's an incredible playmaker and got great hands. He's not a guarantee to make this team either. So I think when it comes to Canada, the defense, I'm not expecting a ton of drama there. They're bringing 4 goalies. Feels like the one underage goalie, Jack Ivankovic, will be the one that doesn't go. But they got a lot of guys who could put pucks in the net and produce offense up front. And that, I think, is going to make it pretty interesting.
As we move from Canada to the United States, I guess sort of a similar question, but when you look at this group that they've invited to camp and how the potential roster could shake out, how would you describe this, or what's the most fascinating element, I guess, of this group with the USA?
I think that they're bringing, I think it's only 28 players to their training camp, so they're only going to cut like 3 guys. But what they're bringing is guys who know how to play depth roles. Teddy Stiga, I've talked about him on the show many times, more than anybody should be talking about a non-first round prospect. But he's kind of a player I want every team in the NHL to have, because he can go out there and throw hits. He knows how to score. He can play with skilled guys. And Frank was saying that yesterday. There's talent in being able to play with talented players. And that's what Teddy Stiga does so well. But then AJ Spellacy, the Chicago Blackhawks prospect, can do the same thing. You got Chris Pelosi. You've got Carey Terrence, all guys who play pretty big roles with their teams throughout the year, but maybe didn't always do that and played deeper roles. They're good defensively. They've got energy. So when we're looking at Canada leaving off a potential 70 goal scorer in Michael Misa, USA doesn't have that issue. But what they do have are guys who I would argue are better at the roles they're going to play than some guys on Team Canada going to be trying to play in some of those similar roles there. So when it comes to it, it's how many good role depth guys they have that will make them very difficult to play against.
So give me your favorite heading into this tournament, as again, we're 20-ish days away from the start of things. Give me your favorite, and then give me out of that kind of next group, who's a team that can maybe surprise us?
Well, I'm going with Canada as the favorite right now. I feel like that's just a team that's, again, the fact you can leave off Michael Misa, who might get the most goals by an OHL, NHL draft eligible prospect in the 2000s, is incredible. When it comes to which team kind of below that to keep an eye out for, Slovakia. And I've said that, I think, 2 years ago too, and they did pretty well. When it comes to the Slovaks, if they get Dalibor Dvorsky, They also have a guy, Maxim Sturbak, who's about to play in his 5th World Juniors. At some point, they got to name the tournament after him. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a record. But they've got some good guys who've been around the block. They know what they're doing. They should have some decent goaltending, and the scoring will be good. It all depends on whether or not Dalibor Dvorsky will be there, though.
Interesting. Slovakia team to keep an eye on. We'll continue the World Junior preview. Steven has it covered like a blanket over at dailyfaceoff.com as well. That's a wrap on this week's edition of The Next Wave, brought to you by Fountain Tire. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.